أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباءهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فغضبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم الأرض الميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من تمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالأرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشاء نغرقهم فلا شريك لهم ولهم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تعقلهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهله يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أحد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لتمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فعنا يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننقصه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي لها إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وظللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم سورة مباركة الفاتحة
सल्लल्लाहु अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आले मुहम्मद। ए रात न ढलना के उजर जाएगी ज़ैनब। ए रात न ढलना के उजर जाएगी ज़ैनब। भाई से दमे सुबह बिछड़ जाएगी ज़ैनब। ए रात न ढलना के उजड़ जाएगी ज़ैनब। सोने दे सकीना को कि फिर सो न सकेगी। रोना भी जो छाएगी तो फिर रो न सकेगी। असगर से मुलाकात तो फिर हो न सकेगी। ए रात न ढलना के उजड़ जाएगी ज़ैनब। घबराए हुए लाल है सहमी हुई माए। जी भर के मैं दोलो अली अकबर को दुआए। नैना है अभी आना मोहम्मद की बलाए। ए रात न ढलना के उजड़ जाएगी ज़ैनब। हर चांद के बच्चों की अभी प्यास है बाकी। कुछ आँख में हजरत है तो कुछ आस है बाकी। लेकिन मेरा भाई मेरा अब्बास है बाकी। ए रात न ढलना के उजड़ जाएगी ज़ैनब। ए रात बिखर जा तेरे बस में हो जहाँ तक। मिट जाएंगे कल आले पैगंबर के निशात। बाकी है ये मंजर अली अकबर की अज़ा तक। ए रात न ढलना के उजड़ जाएगी ज़ैनब। बाकी है अभी आले मोहम्मद का सफीना। बेटी के सुलाने को है शबीर का सीना। झूला अली असगर का झुलाती है सकीना, ए रात न ढलना के उजर जाएगी ज़ैनब। कल कौन सुनेगा ये मेरी आहो बुका भी, होगा ताहे खंजर मेरे भाई का गला भी। खैमा तो कुजा सर पे न होगी ये रिदा भी, ए रात न ढलना के उजर जाएगी ज़ैनब। ए रात गरीबर को तू रहने दे सुकून में, गिर जाएंगे नासिर मेरे आदा की सफों में। ये चांद से चेहरे तो नहा जाएंगे खून में, ए रात न ढलना के उजर जाएगी ज़ैनब। भाई से दमे सुबह बिछड़ जाएगी ज़ैनब। सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद। सूरतुल मुबारकतुल फातिहा।
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على سيدنا ونبينا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين. أما بعد، فقد قال الإمام زين العابدين عليه السلام: أنت بحمد الله عالمة غير معلمة. صدق مولانا الإمام زين العابدين عليه السلام. I give you all condolences on the occasion of the passing of Sayyida Zainab Salamullahi alayha. When it comes to the personality of Sayyida Zainab, we have often heard throughout our lives over the musibah of Sayyida Zainab, that musibah in Medina when she was just a child and she would see the burning door pushed upon her mother. That musibah upon the strike of the sword upon the head of Amir al-Mu'mineen. That musibah on the occasion of the arrows being fired at the janazah of her brother Imam al-Hassan. And of course, that great musibah of Karbala. But a question that we need to ask each and every one of us is that how is it that an individual is able to bear such difficulties to the point that she becomes Ummul Masa'ib, the mother of the ones who bore difficulty, yet at the same time, she maintains her spiritual strength. You and I, when we face trials and tribulations, oftentimes it shakes us to our core. But Sayyida Zainab is the one that when she faced difficulty after difficulty, she said, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila, that I saw nothing except beauty. This is why in the way that we remember the masayib of Sayyida Zainab, it's equally as important for us to remember her fadail and her virtues and to derive lessons from her life as well. That when she goes by the body of her brother on the 11th of Muharram, at the end of the day, Sayyida Zainab is still a sister. But how is it that a sister saw the body of her brother broken into pieces and she says, Rabbana taqabbal minna hadha al-qurban, that, oh Allah, accept this sacrifice from us. That how is it that a human being is able to reach such a status? And this is why the topic of tonight's majlis is deriving lessons from the spiritual qualities of Sayyida Zainab. That what were those qualities embedded in Sayyida Zainab that allowed her to have such spiritual strength, and how can we embed these qualities within our lives that whenever we are faced with difficulties, we are able to approach these difficulties in a manner that is appropriate to do so. You see, when we examine the life of Sayyida Zainab, the first spiritual quality which becomes apparent immediately within the life of Sayyida Zainab is the quality of tawakkul and reliance upon Allah. After all, as I mentioned, this is that Sayyida Zainab that when she goes to the court of Ibn Ziyad, and Ibn Ziyad, he says that, how did you find all of this? Sayyida Zainab said, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila, that I saw nothing except beauty. You see, what does this line means? This line, it means that Sayyida Zainab, when she would look at the happenings that would occur, she would remember that this is the Mashiach and the will of Allah. And whenever she sees something within the will of Allah, that reality is nothing except beauty. Because God is goodness in and of himself. And when Allah desires, he desires the elevation of his creation. So we see that this quality of tawakkul is manifest in Sayyida Zainab, and this is a quality which we need to implement within our lives. Because the nature of this world is a nature of trial and tribulation. Oftentimes, we're tested with financial circumstances. We're tested with the health of our family members. We're tested with our own health. We're tested with family relations. We're tested with anxiety. We're tested with sorrow, and we're tested in many different ways. But one important point to remember is that a person, after they have exerted the utmost effort that they can exert, after they have done what is 100% within their capacity, everything outside of their control is the will of Allah. You see, we have a misconception that trials and tests are only because of our actions and wrongdoings. And without a doubt, sometimes trials and tribulations are because of our own actions. If I speak ill about someone and that person finds out that I spoke ill about them and my relationship with that person, it deteriorates, This form of trial is because of my own doing or other different challenges that were given, financial and other forms. But it's not always the case that trial and tribulation is because of our own action. But another reason trial and tribulation comes upon us is because Allah wants to test us and Allah wants to elevate us. At the end of the day, Rasulullah would say that no prophet was given difficulty like I, Rasulullah. I ask you a question. Was there a more perfect human being than Rasulullah? Can we even conceive that Rasulullah did any wrongdoing? Na'udhu billah. We can't conceive such a thing. We can never say such a thing about Rasulullah. But why is it that Rasulullah faced difficulty? Why is it Amir al-Mu'mineen faced difficulty? Why is it Sayyid al-Shuhada faced difficulty despite being ma'soom? You find one reason is for it to become apparent towards us that what is the status of these individuals and how we can learn to have tawakkul and reliance upon Allah from these individuals. That Sayyida Zainab, when she sees the body of Sayyid al-Shuhada, she says, Rabbana taqabbal minna hadha al-Qurban. That, oh Allah, accept this sacrifice from us. We look at the Imams of Ahlul Bayt time and time again. When Imam Musa al-Kadhim alayhi salam is placed in prison, Imam al-Kadhim, he says, oh Allah, I thank you that you have given me the opportunity to worship you alone, oh Allah. You see, Ahlul Bayt, they went even one step higher than tawakkul. You and I, we're trying to establish tawakkul within our lives. We're trying to have the spiritual strength to rely upon Allah when difficulty comes towards us. But Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they are the ones that they didn't just have sabr and patience in difficulties, but they are the ones who would do shukr and thank Allah in difficulties. That is the status of rida. You see, the difference between contentment and tawakkul and a reliance is this, is that the one who has tawakkul is trying to build a strength to handle the will of Allah. That when something happens that isn't ideal for us, we want to have patience and maintain our spiritual strength. This is tawakkul. But the one who has contentment, you find that whatever Allah wills, that is what they desire. If Allah desires ease for them, they thank Allah in ease. And if Allah desires difficulty for them, they thank Allah in difficulty. Imam Musa al-Kadhim would say that the believers are like two pans of a balance, of a scale. On a scale, when you have a two-pronged scale, when you place one thing on one side, the other end of the scale, it goes up. Imam al-Kadhim alayhi salam says, when the iman and the belief of a believer increases, you find his difficulties, they begin to go up. Why? Because Allah, He wants to elevate them. Rasulullah would say there is no one who is more powerful than the one who relies upon Allah. Because every other type of strength, physical strength, monetary strength, you find it has its limitations. Physical strength is strength until an illness it comes. Monetary strength is a strength as long as you have that wealth within your hand. But no, the strength of the reliance upon Allah is that strength that whatever difficulty one is in, they take that strength with them. And we find Sayyida Zainab, she takes this with her from Karbala to Kufa towards Sham time and time again, that even on the night of Ashura, that after the day of Ashura, we find that on the plains of the desert, Sayyida Zainab recites Salatul Layl. You and I, if we wake up, if we go to sleep late, we won't wake up for Salatul Layl. But was there any day more difficult than Ashura? But even after such a day, Sayyida Zainab, she remembers Allah. So the first quality of Sayyida Zainab that we can put and implement within our lives by reflecting upon the life of Sayyida Zainab is the quality of tawakkul and reliance upon Allah. But the second quality of Sayyida Zainab that we see manifest within her life as a spiritual quality is ilm and knowledge. Now you may ask me that how is knowledge a spiritual quality? Because after all, there are many individuals, they may be great academics, and they may have doctoral degrees, and they may have a long list of qualifications, but if you see such individuals, they may be the most unspiritual individuals. They may be committing the most disgusting of acts. They may be cheating people. They may be lying to people. They may not even believe in the existence of God. So in what ways is ilm a spiritual quality? And how do we see ilm manifest in the life of Sayyida Zainab? You see over here, I point you towards the hadith of Imam Zainul Abidin, which I gave at the beginning of this lecture. Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam, in the court of Yazid, he says to his aunt Sayyida Zainab, Anti bihamdillah, alimatun ghayr mu'allama. That, oh my aunt, you are that learned lady that no one taught you. You see, over here, many questions, they come up. How is it that Sayyida Zainab gained knowledge without being taught? What form of knowledge is this that she received even without going through the process of learning and education? And number three, is it possible for you and I to acquire such a knowledge? You see, on the first level, knowledge can be divided in many different categories. For example, when I'm in a room, I can divide the people in the room based on their height. I can divide them based on their ethnicity. I can divide them based on their occupation, and I can divide them in a number of ways. In the same way, ilm can be divided in a number of ways. For example, in our own lives, one form of ilm is a knowledge which is acquired by sense perception, that when I taste and I see and I smell, and this sense impression, it comes up, we find this is one level of knowledge, and this is actually the most basic level. Allah says in the Quran, وَأَخْرَجَكُم مِّن بُطُونِ أُمَّهَاتِكُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ شَيْئًا. That God, He took you from the wombs of your mother when you didn't know anything. When a child is born, a child has the faculties to acquire knowledge. But according to one view, you find that he is devoid of knowledge. Now, of course, what is the fitrah and the natural disposition and the belief in God within the nature? That's a separate discussion. But you find that at the first level, we gain sensory perception. Then at the second level, we're able to manipulate that sensory perception and imagine different things we haven't even seen. We're able to imagine abstract concepts at the third level, and we're able to understand universal concepts at the fourth level and be able to have principles and teach and give education. But you find there is another division of ilm, and this is a very important division. And that is the division between acquired knowledge and knowledge by presence. You see, acquired knowledge, al-ilm al-husuli, is knowledge that we acquire by listening to lectures. It's knowledge we acquire by reading books. It's knowledge we acquire by seeing different things. But then there is a type of knowledge which God, He gives that knowledge to the heart of His servants. This is a knowledge by presence. This is that knowledge that a person is not taught that knowledge by any human being. They receive that knowledge from Allah, and this is that knowledge which is acquired through ubudiyah and servitude, and it is this knowledge which is acquired through tazkiyah and self-purification. You see, in the traditions of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, we find that when a person is able to purify themselves, God increases their faculties and God gives them a knowledge they won't be able to acquire otherwise. We see within the Quran, in the story of Musa and Khidr, we find in Surah Al-Kahf, Allah says that Musa, he found فَوَجَدَ عَبْدًا مِنْ إِبَادِنَا, that he found a servant from amongst our servants, وَعَلَّمْنَاهُ مِنْ لَدُنَّ عِلْمًا, and we taught him a knowledge from us. There is a knowledge we gave towards him. That human being who embarks upon the path of spirituality and self-purification, there is a type of knowledge he is able to acquire that the one who doesn't embark upon this path will never be able to acquire. A person who studies day and night, but they don't act upon their knowledge. They don't seek that knowledge sincerely. That knowledge does nothing except distance them from Allah. You see, there's a famous book on Islamic pedagogy and teaching, which is called Munyatul Murid fi Adab al-Mufid wal-Mustafid. And if I remember correctly, this book was published by ICAS Press with the title of The Desire of the Aspirant. This book over here in the title, the famous author, he says that there are certain people, even though they strive to acquire knowledge and they work hard to acquire knowledge, that knowledge, it does nothing except distance them from Allah. It hardens their heart and it darkens their heart. You see, what is ilm according to the traditions of Ahlul Bayt? According to the traditions of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, not according to the logicians and the philosophers. That's a different discussion. According to the traditions of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, ilm, true knowledge, is that which you act upon. Otherwise, it is jahl and ignorance. What is the difference between ilm and jahl? What is the difference between knowledge and ignorance? Knowledge, it exists. Ignorance doesn't exist. What is ignorance? Ignorance is like darkness. Darkness is the absence of light. Ignorance is the absence of knowledge. Ignorance doesn't have any existence on its own. When we take something, right, we can only take that which exists. If I told you that hand me that non-existing object, you'll say to me, the object doesn't exist. How will I hand it towards you? In the same way, if one wants to spread knowledge, if one wants to be an example for his community, he wants to be an example for his children, they want to be an example for their spouses, for their family, for their friends, they need to act upon that knowledge. Because if you don't have knowledge that you act upon, then it's ignorance. And people can't take ignorance, a non-existing thing, from you. There's nothing to take over there. It's empty. It is devoid. So the shart of knowledge is that the one who works in the path of Allah and acts upon their knowledge, God will increase for them. And when we look at Sayyida Zainab, are we surprised that Imam Zainul Abidin says that you are that learned lady that no one taught? Because Sayyida Zainab is the one who grew up in the house of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam. She is the one who saw Rasulullah. She is the one who saw Amir al-Mu'mineen perform 1,000 units of prayer every night. She is the one who would see her mother Fatima Zahra stand in the mihrab in the prayer niche to the point that her feet would begin to swell. Sayyida Zainab is the one who grew up in the house about which it is stated within the Quran. في بيوت أذن الله أن ترفع ويذكر فيها اسمه يسبح له فيها, and there are those houses where Allah has allowed His remembrance to be raised, and they remember His name within Him, and they glorify Him by the day and by the mornings and the evenings. Sayyida Zainab grew up within that house. And this is why when we see the ilm of Sayyida Zainab, when we see that Imam Zainul Abidin says that she is that learned lady that no one taught, we come towards the realization that Sayyida Zainab is the one who spent her life in the ubudiyah and the servitude of Allah. Even from a young age, we have snippets that goes to show the status of Sayyida Zainab. It's stated that when Sayyida Zainab was a child, she would say to Amir al-Mu'mineen, "Oh my father, do you love us?" Amir al-Mu'mineen would say, "Oh Zainab, I love you." And Sayyida Zainab would reply by saying that, "Oh my father, a heart that loves Allah, how can it love another?" You see, look at a child. Have you seen a child give reflections and understanding like this? This is Sayyida Zainab. Sayyida Zainab shows that love is of two types. One is the love of Allah, and one is the love of the creation. It is stated from this that whenever one loves any family member, any friend, any member of their family, they are doing it through the lens of the love of Allah. So you find all of these different points arise from Sayyida Zainab's discussion. From the second level, we see that Amir al-Mu'mineen shows Sayyida Zainab, "Oh Zainab, say one." Zainab says wahid. And then Amir al-Mu'mineen says, "Oh Zainab, say itnain." Sayyida Zainab says two. Sayyida Zainab doesn't say two, she says wahid, she says one. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, "Oh Zainab, why do you not say two?" Sayyida Zainab says, "Oh my father, that tongue which is used to saying one, how can that tongue say anything besides it?" Sayyida Zainab shows that every moment of her life was in the remembrance of the unity of Allah. And in this manner, we see the spiritual qualities of Sayyida Zainab, and we seek to implement these spiritual qualities. It is stated that when Sayyida Zainab was born in the month of Jamadiul Ula, according to most historians, Rasulullah came to the house of Fatimatu Zahra. When Rasulullah came to the house of Fatimatu Zahra, salamullahi alayha, he held Sayyida Zainab and he begins to cry. Sayyida Fatima says, "Oh Rasulullah, why do you cry?" Rasulullah says, "Oh Fatima, this is the one who will bear difficulty after difficulty, oh Fatima." Sayyida Zainab, from a very young age, she carried a special attachment to her brother Sayyidul Shuhada, to the extent that when Sayyida Zainab got married to Abdullah, the son of Ja'far al-Tayyar, Amir al-Mu'mineen said, "Oh Abdullah, you can marry Zainab. But oh Abdullah, the condition is that when my children go to Karbala, you give her permission." You see, many people, they ask a question, historical in nature here, that why is it that Abdullah bin Ja'far al-Tayyar didn't go towards Karbala despite being the husband of Sayyida Zainab? You see, historically, there are three possibilities, and one of them is considered weaker than the others. As for the weak possibility, they said that Hazrat Abdullah was old in age, but you find historically, he was 55 years old at that time. He was younger than Sayyid al-Shuhada, and he was about the same age as Sayyida Zainab. And we find that this possibility is weaker as an excuse. The second possibility, which is more probable, is that Sayyida Shuhada needed members of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam in Medina. So Banu Umayyah wouldn't be able to successfully plot their plots, and in that way they would be served as a deputy of the Imam and carry out the Imam's message. We find that this is a more likely probability, considering that Hazrat Abdullah was a prominent personality. And the third possibility as to why he didn't go to Karbala is that some historical works, if we accept them, mention that he had become blind by that time, and because of a lack of vision, he was not able to go with Sayyida Zainab. It's stated that when the caravan of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, they leave Medina, they go towards Mecca, and when they reach that point, that they were at the outskirts of Mecca, they were at the outskirts of Hijaz going towards Iraq. Hazrat Abdullah, he catches up with Sayyida Zainab. When he catches up with Sayyida Zainab, it is stated that Imam al-Hussein set up a tent for Sayyida Zainab and Abdullah. When he sets up that tent, you find that Abdullah, he says to Zainab, that our grandfather would say that whenever anyone goes on a journey for them to give sadaqah and something in the way of God, he says, oh Zainab, I am giving our children Aun and Muhammad as sadaqah. When Sayyida Zainab, she reaches Karbala, on the night of Shab-e Ashur, on the night of Ta'asu'a, each of the women would speak towards their children. Kulthum, you find, would speak to her brother. Sayyida Zainab would speak towards Aun and Muhammad, and she would say, oh Aun, oh Muhammad, I know you are the grandchildren of Ali bin Abi Talib. I know that you are the grandchildren of Ja'far al-Tayyar. I know that tomorrow you'll reach the Furat, but when you reach the Furat, don't drink from the water of the Furat unless the children of Abu Abdullah al-Hussein have drunk. It's stated that these children of Sayyida Zainab, they begin to fight, and they would look towards their uncles, Aba Fadl Abbas and Sayyida Shuhada. But a point had come that they come towards the ground. Aba Fadl Abbas, he comes from one side, Sayyida Shuhada comes from the other. Sayyida Shuhada, he says that are there final words that you have? They say that tell our mother we remembered her wasiyah. We went toward the Furat, but we didn't drink from its water. It's stated that when the bodies of Aun and Muhammad were brought back, Sayyida Zainab, she places one hand on the chest of Aun. She places one hand on the chest of Muhammad. She says, Rabbana taqabbal minna hadal qurban, that accept this sacrifice from me, from us, O Allah. But no historian says that Sayyida Zainab cried over her children, to the extent that even when they go towards Sham and the heads of the marchers were being returned, you find Kulthum would take the head of Abbas, and Layla would take the head of Ali Akbar, and Rabab would look at the head of Ali Asghar, and she would say, Ya Asghar, amitluka tunhar, that do they even slaughter children like you, O Asghar? But as all of these heads were returned, there were two heads that none of the women, they took those heads. And the situation reached the point that the women of Sham, they began to say that has the mother of these children died, Fidda would say that their mother hasn't died, but their mother has taken a vow that she will only mourn for her brother Hussein. But then that point it comes when Ahlul Bayt, they return towards Medina. You know, when Ahlul Bayt, they return towards Medina, Sayyida Zainab goes towards the grave of Rasulullah. She says, "Oh Rasulullah, Hussein has been killed." After that, she goes towards the grave of her mother Fatima Zahra. It stated, she says, "Oh mother, I've brought something from this journey." She takes the blood-covered shirt of Sayyid al-Shuhada. She places it on the grave of Fatima Zahra. Some ulama, they say that the grave of Zahra began to shake at that moment. Zainab says, "Oh my mother, I've just brought the shirt of Hussein. I was there and watching when Shimar jalisun ala sadr al-Hussein." After that, Sayyida Zainab, she returns towards her home. When she returns towards her home, she says that, "Oh, Abdullah," she enters the home. When she enters the home, Abdullah says, "Oh lady, Zainab isn't here. Why are you entering my house?" Sayyida Zainab says, "Oh Abdullah, have you even forgotten Zainab?" Abdullah, he begins to cry. Sayyida Zainab, now you see the heart of a mother. She goes in towards that room where Aun and Muhammad would reside, and she begins to cry when she sees their prayer mat. She says, "Oh Aun, oh Muhammad, forgive your mother. She had promised her mother Fatima that as long as she was alive, she would mourn for her brother Hussein." But you know, there's one more musibah of Sayyida Zainab. It's stated throughout this journey, she would remember her brother Aba Fadl Abbas, to the extent that on the 11th of Muharram, when they put her upon the camel, she would look towards the Furat and she would say, "Oh Abbas, you would help me in these situations. Where are you, oh Abbas?" When Sayyida Zainab, she returns to her home, a point it comes when somebody knocks upon the door. When she opens the door, she sees the mother of Aba Fadl Abbas, Ummul Baneen. Ummul Baneen, she looks at Sayyida Zainab and she says, "Wa Husayna." Sayyida Zainab says, "Oh Ummul Baneen wa Abbas. على لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين سيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون." We ask through the right of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad that he grants us the intercession of Sayyida Zainab and of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. And we pray for the opportunity to do the ziyarah of Sayyida Zainab and her brother Sayyid al-Shuhada, and for the hastening of the reappearance of the master of our time. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Ya Hussein, 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 Ya Hussein. उस वक्त जब के ज़ैनब दरबार में गई थी, कारी नमाजियों से महफिल सजी हुई थी। जालिम ये पूछता था, गाजी तेरा कहाँ है, बालों से मुंह छुपाए। ज़ैनब ये कह रही थी, ए मेरे बाबा जान, हो रही है अज़ान, सर छुपाऊं कहाँ, ए मेरे बाबा जान, हो रही है अज़ान, सर छुपाऊं कहाँ। मजमाए आम में बेवतन बेअमा आ गया कारवां, है मेरे बाबा जान, हो रही है अज़ान, सर छुपाऊं कहाँ। मैं भी हूँ मर्जिया बिनते खैरुन्निसा, मेरे लहजे में है बाबा तेरी अदा, नाम ज़ैनब मेरा तूने जो रख दिया, दे दी अपनी ज़बान, मेरे बाबा जान, हो रही है अज़ान, सर छुपाऊं कहाँ, है मेरे बाबा जान, हो रही है अज़ान, सर छुपाऊं कहाँ। बाबा जा मेरी मांगती रह गई, बामोदर सज गए, जीते जी मर गई। हल्काए शाम में नाम सुन कर मेरा, मर गया नातवा, है मेरे बाबा जान, हो रही है अज़ान, सर छुपाऊं कहाँ, है मेरे बाबा जान, हो रही है अज़ान, सर छुपाऊं कहाँ। हाथ कानों पे है, नील गालों पे है, और निशान जो सकीना के शानों पे है। हर निशान से यही आ रही है सदा, बाबा जान बाबा जान, है मेरे बाबा जान, हो रही है अज़ान, सर छुपाऊं कहाँ। बाबा जान ये तेरा आखिरी था बयां, तेरी चादर बचा ये गाजी जवान, मर गया बावफा, छिन गई है रिदा, कहती है बीबिया, अब्बास 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 अब्बास। रुक न पाया मेरे बावफा का वो सर, नौके नेज़ा से आने लगा खाक पर, बहन को दर बदर देख कर नंगे सर, सह न पाया जवां ए मेरे बाबा जान हो रही है अज़ा सर छुपाऊं कहाँ ए मेरे बाबा जान हो रही है अज़ा सर छुपाऊं कहाँ या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन कहती थी ये ज़ैनब कहती थी ये ज़ैनब यूं माँ का मान निभाना यूं माँ का मान निभाना ए ओनो मोहम्मद ए ओनो मोहम्मद ए ओनो मोहम्मद ए ओनो मोहम्मद शबीर का तुम सदका हो अब है में बेटा तुम लौट कर न आना ए ओनो मोहम्मद ए ओनो मोहम्मद ए ओनो मोहम्मद ए ओनो मोहम्मद है माँ को यकीन तुम माँ की बात रखोगे ये याद रहे खैमों में प्यासे बच्चे दरिया पे अगर जाना हो सहरोज के प्यासो तुम प्यास न बुझाना ए ओनो मोहम्मद ए ओनो मोहम्मद ए ओनो मोहम्मद ए ओनो मोहम्मद अल-फातिहा। अस्सलाम वालेकुम या अबा अब्दुल्लाह, अस्सलाम वालेकुम इब्न रसूलुल्लाह, अस्सलाम वालेकुम इब्न अमीरुल मुमिनीन व इब्न सय्यिदिल मरसलीन, अस्सलाम वालेकुम इब्न फातिमा अज़-ज़हरा सय्यदतुन निसाइल आलमीन, अस्सलाम वालेकुम हसन अल-मुज्तबा, अस्सलाम अला अल-हुसैन व अला अली इब्न अल-हुसैन व अला औलादिल हुसैन व अला असहाबिल हुसैन, अस्सलाम वालेकुम अबुल फज़ल अल-अब्बास इब्न अमीरुल मुमिनीन जमीअन व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अस्सलामु अलैका गरीबल गुरबा सुल्तान अबुल हसन मौलाना अली इब्न मूसा अल-रज़ा कुन शफीअना व शफीअ वालिदैना फी यौमिल जज़ाई व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अस्सलामु अलैका या मौलाना या साहिबुल अस्र व ज़मान अल-अमान 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 मिन फितनतिज़ ज़मान। अस्सलामु अलैका या खलीफतुर रहमान, अस्सलामु अलैका या शरीकल कुरान, अस्सलामु अलैका या काबतल ईमान, अस्सलामु अलैका या इमामना व इमामल इंसी वल जान, अज्जलल्लाहु तआला फरजक व सहलल्लाहु तआला मखरजक व ज़ुहूरक व रहमतुल्लाहि व बरकातुहू। अल्लाहुम्मा सल्लि अला मुहम्मद व आलि मुहम्मद।